RMB 303. Which game do you think you have spent the most non-consecutive time playing? Easy. Gran Turismo. Yes, I've been playing that since Gran Turismo 1, and I've played every version since, except for Gran Turismo 4 Prologue. I didn't bother with that, because I was still so busy playing 3 that by the time 4 came out, I didn't need Prologue. Who's your favourite games programmer from yesteryear? Jeff Minter, I think. Yeah. Jeff Minter. He's mad, absolutely mental, and it shows in his games. I like games that are mental. Old games were more about the experience of actually playing the game, while today has seemed too preoccupied with the plot. Discuss. Actually, I completely disagree with that. I think the plot on modern games is threadbare, really thin, completely superfluous mostly. It's just the odd little cutscene in between slaughtering people, which is great, because I would much rather be slaughtering people than watching a cutscene. No. Older games, I mean, Monkey Island, really. All your point-and-click adventures, they had a plot. They had a great plot. I didn't play them because they're not my kind of game, but no, I completely disagree with you. I think the older games have more of a plot than the modern ones. Unless you're playing role-play games. I suppose Final Fantasy's got a plot. I don't know, I've never played it. I don't like those kind of games, so can't comment on them. What is your favourite game genre and why? Driving games, really. Racing games, specifically Gran Turismo, but I will play the odd other game. Why? Adrenaline, really. I love to just turn the console on, slap the disc in, hit play, bam, in there, action, straight away, big adrenaline hit. You know, if it's really, really fast and you're really having to work hard to keep the car under control, I love it. It gives me a rush. And the only other thing that comes close is first-person shooters. I get a buzz out of them. Nothing else does that. I don't like games where you've got to think. You know, yeah, I've got a very good, very capable brain that thinks very well sometimes. Doesn't necessarily draw the right conclusions, but when I'm playing a game, I don't want to be thinking, I don't want to be working out puzzles, I don't want to be working out strategy, anything that involves stuff other than going very quickly or killing people. What computer operating system do you currently use and why? I've got Windows XP, mainly because it came with my computer. It's proved to be very reliable, very solid, robust, doesn't hog too many resources by Windows standards. I mean, if you compare it with a proper operating system like Windows Workbench, Amiga OS, well then it's just a joke. But I have used Vista. I think it's a travesty. That's word of the day today. It is a travesty. That should never, ever, ever have been released. It is so completely bodged. It hogs your resources like you would not believe. I don't understand how it can be considered an upgrade for Microsoft to release this operating system that requires you to have a faster processor, more memory, more hard drive space, and actually does less. It is less useful, it is less easy to use. It makes me scream. I want to just rip the thing out when it's asking me, are you sure you want to do that? Are you? I mean, did you see the Caters 17 video where she's taking the piss out of the operating system? That was perfect. That is what Vista is like. It's a huge big sack of shit, and I hate it, and I will never own a computer that's got it. Windows 7 looks promising. What I'm hearing and reading and seeing, it looks very promising. So when I eventually get round to buying a new computer, I won't object to one being on there. I do have dual boot on this computer. I've got Ubuntu on there as well, Ubuntu Linux, which I find novel. I don't like it. It's got a split personality. It's definitely got multiple personality disorder, because one aspect of it is really, really easy. Your whole repositories for getting software, and you just like click here, install, wham, great, fantastic, it all works. But then you look for other software that isn't in the repositories, and it's like install stuff? What? Recompile your kernel? What? No. Sod all that. Ubuntu is not ready for general use by non-computer whiz kids. I mean, I know how to use a computer, but when it starts assuming you've got extensive knowledge of its internal workings, then they're making a mistake. It's wrong. I mean, Windows is bollocks, but really, they need they need to make an operating system that works like the Amiga operating system did. It was, you could dig under the bonnet, under the hood, if you're American, and really get into the workings of it, but it was all logical, it all made sense, and it was all documented. And you know, when you bought your Amiga, you got a manual, and it told you exactly how it all worked. None of these other, I mean, Christ, manual for Windows? No chance. You know, buy one, it's all about the money. Load of bollocks. So, Saberblock. What are your favourite computer game soundtracks? There was one, and it was it Wipeout, or was it Wipeout 2097? The one that had the Chemical Brothers on it. That was fantastic. I did like that. And I suppose Gran Turismo 2, 3, one of those. Which one was it that had Losing My Favourite Game from the album Gran Turismo by, what were their names? I don't remember. That rather one-hit wonderish type band. Yeah, that was a great soundtrack. And Gran Turismo's 2 and 3, I think. After that, I was like, lost interest. Which motorbikes have you owned, and which did you enjoy the most? Well, my first was not a motorbike, it was a moped. It was a Honda Karan step-through rev and pray that it would move. That was a birthday present, and it was owned previously by my grandfather. I mean, it was a shopper, it had the basket on the front and everything. Very embarrassing, but I was the first kid in school to have their own motorised transport, which was nice. After that, I had a Honda MB5, which was a complete death trap. And it went quicker, it looked sort of better, albeit it had obviously been crashed a number of times and was falling apart and never would have passed an MOT. It was probably quite lethal. But that conked out after not too long. Conked out before I could kill myself on it, which was good. After that, I had a Yamaha RS125, which was the fastest bike I ever owned, the biggest I ever owned. And it would do about 78 miles an hour on a good day, which wasn't very often. And it had this really annoying tendency to cut out for no obvious reason and strand me somewhere and would refuse to start for about 3 hours. And I once pushed it home 15 miles in the middle of the night because I wouldn't abandon it where I was because it would have been stolen and stripped and I never would have seen it again, which may not have been a bad thing considering how often it conked out on me. But it was fun while it did work, though the handling on it was pretty bad. After that, my 2 years ran out on my provisional license and I hadn't taken my test, so I had to go back down to technically a moped. I'd say technically. I had a Yamaha FS1E, the legendary Fizzy, and this was a very special Fizzy because it had the full racing fairing, the racing seat, the drop handle, what the ace bars they were called, yeah, the Micron exhaust, the big bore kit. It had been ported, it had got a racing disc valve, and it had got an open carburetor. There was no air filter on there whatsoever. Never mind racing filter, it just plain didn't have one, and the only thing that stopped it sucking up birds and small babies was that the fairing kind of directed the airflow past it, so it didn't suck bugs and elephants and things in. And all of that sounds completely ridiculous on a 50cc motorbike. Now, mopeds, 50cc bikes at that time, were legally restricted to 30 miles an hour, but this bike had been built before that was law, so it was exempt, and it did 62 miles an hour. You hear of your legendary Fizzies that do 60, this one really did. The power band on it was absolutely insane. You would open the throttle and it would be nothing, 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 whoosh! And then you change gear and you were back into nothing. But it was fantastic. That would be my favourite one. I mean, it wasn't as fast as the Yamaha, the RS125. It was a good 20 miles an hour slower. But it was insane. The power band made it so much fun. And the noise it made, my God. I used to see this girl who lived out in the sticks, and I would go over to see her, and I would be coming home at like 2 o'clock in the morning or something, going through the little villages, and this bike sounded like a swarm of angry rot wasps in a bean tin, but then running through a concert PA system on full blast. Totally socially irresponsible of me, but you know, I was 18, I didn't care. That was the most fun. That's the one I nearly killed myself on several times because I was just too busy having fun.